Hi, welcome back to my channel. In this video, I am going to be starting the sort of true crime part of my channel. I'm going to give a little bit of an introduction. I'll also link the video where I sort of talk about adding certain things to my channel and just evolving, and so this is going to be the first of the true crime element that I'm going to be adding. I wanted to start with something tangible for people to connect with, so I thought that I would do a series to begin with, and it's going to be all about the true crime elements of the popular show American Horror Story. American Horror Story was started in 2011. It was created by Ryan Murphy and Brad Falchuk. It's a really interesting series. I remember it starting because I was like, I didn't get it. Like the first one, I didn't understand. The second one was already starting. I mean, I didn't really understand like what the point of the show was. But what it basically is like every season is sort of a mini series. So it's going to start and finish and finish up. I think that's what threw me, because when I came in on the second series, I had watched a few of the first ones and I'm like, okay, I don't understand. They use a lot of the same actors, but they're doing different parts. So it's like, you know, each season is a different story, not connected in that way. So they would use the same actors or a lot of the same actors. And so that completely threw me, because I'm like, wait a second, how is this person an axe murderer in one, then they're like the victim in the other, then they were dead, now they're alive? Like it just really once I got it, I was super interested in it. The other part is I started noticing little things. Like I've been into true crime for a really long time. I originally went to school for forensic psychology. I ended up being a behavioral therapist, but my original love was forensics, and so I was really into sort of like the mind of someone who committed murders, like trying to figure them out, like why are they doing this, why are they not, all that sort of thing. And so I had been interested in a lot of these cases for a long time. So I was like, wait a second, that kind of reminds me of this, that kind of reminds me of that. And so when I looked more into it, those first two seasons, I realized that a lot of the characters or storylines that they were using were loosely based on true crime. So I figured, wouldn't it be cool to start out the true crime element of my channel with using those as a guide, and so then you can pick up the full story when you're watching American Horror Story. And if you haven't watched it, and especially if you love any sort of like true crime or mystery or whatever, I really highly recommend it. I think it's really well done. They are saddled up for a 9th season, I believe, which is going to be in 2019, so it's going to keep going. And the other thing I like about it is just the fact that like you don't have to, it's not one of those things where you're like, oh, I missed something from season 2 or 3. I did read that potentially season 9 is going to have a few of the characters overlap, and like going to be the first time where they sort of marry together. So I think that'll be interesting, especially because you're already like mixing people up, using the same actors. Like it's going to be like a complete mind meld. Anyway. The various seasons that you can watch were Murder House, which originally wasn't called Murder House, but once they started maybe like getting renewed or realized it was going to continue, then they named it. So it was Murder House, it was Asylum, it was Coven, Freak Show, Hotel, Roanoke, Cult, and then the one for season 8 in 2019 is called Apocalypse. Some of the true crime cases that were featured in the shows include the following list that I'm going to share with you. I have already researched a majority of these, so you will be seeing, these are the ones I'm going to be highlighting, and that's going to be, I'm going to start off with the Cecil Hotel, just to give a whole blanket video about the Cecil Hotel, and then within the Cecil, there's these other different mysteries or murders that go along with that will be in their own separate video, because they're just really intense, like Richard Ramirez, who was also called the Night Stalker. You have Jack Unterweger, who was sort of like the Night Stalker copycat, sort of. I'm going to get into that in my video. There's Elisa Lam, And one of the first cases I'm going to talk about with regard to the Cecil is going to be that of Elizabeth Short. She's also known in the media as the Black Dahlia. A few other ones that were featured that I'm going to touch on is like John Wayne Gacy, Ed Gein, H.H. Holmes, which is going to be the first one right after all of the different Cecil Hotel ones, Jeffrey Dahmer. There's going to be some mystery type ones, which is going to be like the Lost Colony of Roanoke. I've been intrigued by that for so long, and there's so many different theories. Also, sort of the smiley face killer theory was brought up in the cult one. That's the one I started watching Cult, and then I kind of got behind, so I'm like, you know what, I'm just gonna wait till it's done and then watch the whole thing together. So that's the only one that I haven't watched completely. There's so many others that I'm gonna be covering. Delphine Lalaurie, Elizabeth Bathroy, the Axeman of New Orleans, which was a killer that was never caught or never identified. I'm also going to be covering, I believe it was called the Nurse Murders, but it was Gwen Graham and Catherine Wood. Hope you really are going to enjoy this series. I'm super excited for it. I'm going to call it True Crimes Behind American Horror Story Plots. These are my first time doing this type of video, so I hope that it makes sense, that I do the proper research. I will have a disclaimer that, you know, I'm just a regular person. I do have a background and education in behavioral therapy and behavioral sciences, but I really just want this to be sort of a discussion, us being able to share our interest in true crime. I really hope to pull in elements of, I'm passionate about mental health and how some of these different things are tied or not tied to that and how that fits in, and also just really, you know, sharing my ideas and my knowledge with regard to behavior. So many people think it's like black and white, and a lot of times when I'm watching true crime, the one thing that always gets me is, you know, when people use rational thought for irrational situations. Like, for instance, if they're saying that there is a person who is suffering from a mental illness, but then they don't understand why they would just do this, that, or the other. Well, that's the thing, because they have a mental illness, so their brain isn't working the same way. So I just want to bring up some of those points and have a discussion about that. I hope you enjoy these videos. If you like this type of video, give it a thumbs up. I'm not sure how I'm going to upload them. I might upload these two like sort of back to back just to get it started. But the first video is going to be on the Cecil Hotel, so I hope you stick around to watch that. If you have any, of course my cat's meowing. If you have any suggestions on true crimes or, you know, different series that you'd like to see me do, please let me know. I think after I sort of wrap up the ones that are related to American Horror Story, I think I'm going to move on to the real stories behind true crime movies, popular movies. So let me know if you have a suggestion, and if you're not subscribed yet and you really like this type of content, I'll be uploading videos like this at least once a week. I upload in general 3 times a week. I hope you join my little family, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.